forgot to take record. Okay, now the recording is here. Okay, thanks for reminding me. Okay, so we finished talking about Foucault, and that's how he conduct his study. And so the meaning is viewed from historical perspective from in Foucault's study. But now we move on to Roland Barthes. Okay, Barthes' idea is like, okay, of course there is a lot of like human interaction that will like have some that let power be exercised. Okay, that's true. But there is other way power can like exercise in other way. Okay, and that's why he wants to study how meaning is constructed, because there's a lot of things got meaning in our world, right? Things got meaning in our world. It is especially so in, for example, mass media, in literature, in our products of creative industry. And Barthes thinks if we pay special attention to this kind of stuff, mass media, literature, or any products of creative industry, like movies, songs, comics, that kind of stuff, we can have a new perspective on how meaning is constructed. And by constructing that kind of meaning, some ideological or even political message is within, okay, is within that kind of product, okay? And we have to try to unseal and take up all the cover within that industry to see how things work inside, okay, and have a clearer understanding of how we got to have certain worldview, okay, how the certain worldview is put to us, okay, and that is his study of semiology. Okay, semiology is simply the study of science. Okay, hello， 你好，係啊，上堂就喺度。Okay, sorry, someone recognized me. Okay, semiology is the study of science. Okay, so in Cantonese is 符號學. Okay, 符號學. Okay, the study of science. Okay, and by studying the science, Barthes thinks that we can have a clearer understanding of how meaning is created, and maybe power is exercised within that, right, in that process. Okay, of course, power is always exercised in a very subtle way, but that has already have a very strong grips on us. Okay, so our worldview is in a sense put to us through that kind of process. So Barthes wants to like unveil the structure or the process, okay, so that we can have a clearer understanding of how the world works, okay, and how we are a product of the mass media, literature, or products of creative industry. Okay, cool. So let's get into that. Okay, let's get into that. Okay, let us start with an example. Okay, it is the cover photo of a magazine. Okay, in the last tutorial on last Friday, okay, we have discussed some of Barthes' idea. Okay, and let us start with an example that I have already discussed on last Friday. Okay, the cover photo of a magazine. Okay, what's the photo? The photo is simple: a black soldier saluting to the flag of France. Okay, a French soldier who is black, okay, salute to the flag of France, okay, the very famous tricolor. Okay, you understand the picture? It's like, okay, and then it's a flag of France here. So you have a saluting gesture to that flag. Okay, the problem is, what messages do it convey? Do you guys have any idea? What messages do it convey? On a magazine, you can imagine on a magazine, okay? On the cover photo, there is a black soldier saluting to the flag of France. What message is it conveying? What message?
The diversity of the French nation.
The what again, Pablo?
Diversity.
Diversity. Okay, good.
They
Nice.
are all the same.
Yes.
They are all the same because in France there are many people with Africa descendants. So I guess it's because of that.
Yes, thanks, Pablo. Very good. A very good suggestion, right? Because France is a colonial power, right? France was a very strong colonial power, so you got a lot of colonies in Africa, and that's why there's a lot of like black people living in France. Okay, right now, and they're French nationals, of course, they're French citizens. And but back then, like in the 60s, it is still not very clear how we should like see those black people, because after that they got a period of independence. Okay, a lot of French colonies in Middle East, in Africa, or in other places of the world, they got independence. Okay, and a lot of people from these countries also came to France before the independence. So in a sense, they are in a sense they are French in a sense because they are French national. Sometimes they will say, sometimes it is they are still people from those colonies and not proper France. So how should the French people see those guys coming from the colonies? And in this era, this kind of cover photo is particularly okay meaningful because it shows the solidarity of French people, okay, including different color of skins, okay, no matter you're a black guy, a white guy, or okay, I don't know, someone from the Middle East, because French got a lot of colonies also in the Middle East, okay, maybe you are an apps, okay, you can also be included in the French nation. And so a cover photo like that will have the meaning that okay, we will have solidarity among different people under the French nation. Okay, no matter whatever skin colors you have, okay, you are part of the French nation, and we welcome you. Okay, it's of course a very good idea to show that in a sense. That's a message, right? That's a message, right? Yeah, very good, Pablo. Do you guys, other guys, have any other suggestion apart from that kind of diversity, welcoming message to people originally from the colonies? Okay, do we have other suggestion? What message does it convey, or does it carry? What other message? Why, for example, why soldier? Of course, Pablo has a good suggestion because Pablo's suggestion explains very well why they use a black soldier. Okay, because it shows diversity, and maybe that shows a certain political correctness that you have to welcome people of other skin color. Okay, of course, but then I will have to ask, why soldier? Okay. Why soldier? And why salute? Why the gesture of salute? Any other suggestion? From Barthes' perspective, that these are very important. Huh? Of course, it is something meaningful, right? It got a meaning, right? That's why we can use semiology, the study of signs, okay, to study it, because it's a kind of sign. It's a kind of sign, right? So we have to try to unpack how that kind of sign works. Okay, for us it seems to be simple, but we have to unpack it. Okay, to lay out its structure. Okay, why soldier? Why salute? To the fact of France and not to something else. Like if you can imagine, if we just want to show the diversity of French nation, and if we want to show the solidarity among different skin color under the French nation, we can just have like I don't know, like a photo with different with people of different skin color. They all share a meal. They are in the same party, and they sing and dance together happily. That also works, right? If we want to show the solidarity and diversity within the French nation among different people, right? So that must be something more if you want to use the image of a soldier and the gesture of saluting.
It seems like more formal, and soldier equals to loyalty, and saluting while meaning to respect the country. So
Yeah.
it would be more formal to have a soldier saluting.
Okay, formality, right? Thanks, Kai. Formality, right? Yeah, it seems so, right? It's more formal. It's not just a small party happened in your house, right? It's something formal. So that's why they wear the soldier uniform, right? And then I also got another suggestion in chat box. Someone told me maybe it's related to patriotism. Okay, the love of the country, patriotism. Okay, patriot. Okay, patriot. Yeah, that's exactly how Barthes thinks about the issue. Barthes thinks that why you use a soldier? Huh? Why you use a soldier? Because soldier signals a lot of different things. For example, it means that you prepare to sacrifice yourself, even your life, okay, to the country, right? It's the work of a soldier, right? To defend against enemies, to help safeguard our country. So using the image of a soldier means that it is a country that deserves our sacrifice. We prepare to sacrifice our lives for the country, okay? And that's a very strong image, because if you see, because even if you're a black guy, okay, a black guy who is just new to the country in a sense, because it's just the immediate period after the decolonization. So those black soldiers must be, in a sense, new to the country in a sense. And even for a black soldier who are not, in a sense, originally from the French proper, they still think that the country deserves our sacrifice. Okay, it's meaningful to sacrifice your life to protect this country. Okay, so it's not, and it also is also important to look at to see that the soldier is not protecting a lot of people, right? In this picture, okay, you can salute to the people, right? But below is not saluting to the people, but to the flag of France. So that kind of love is not directing to other people. It's important. It's very, very important. It's not directing to other people in the same country. Okay, you can just like I love these people, and so I want to sacrifice myself to protect these people if there is any danger. Okay, it's okay to do that, right? If you want to do that, then the picture should not be a salute to the flag of France, but to the people, right? But why to the flag of France? Barthes says it is because it wants to create certain kind of myths to let us think that there is something above all the people, and which is called the country, France. So by using that kind of image, it shows to us that there is something above all the people, and that is a country or a nation that we call France. Okay, that create, in a sense, that consolidate or even create the existence of the country of France. Of course, in a sense, that it exists before that, but in a sense, it creates certain abstract entity, the country France, above all the people. Okay, it seems that there is something else among the people, apart from the people. It is a country, and that is a very important thing, a very important stuff that deserves our sacrifice if it is in danger. And so that kind of like that kind of image will help us to, we will send out a message that is, France is a great country, and you guys, all the citizens, deserve to sacrifice yourself for the country. Okay, you guys have the duty to love the country and to protect the country if it is in danger. It is a message that is sent out by that kind of cover photo in a magazine. Do you agree? Do you agree of the analysis? Okay, so on one hand, it shows the solidarity among different people of different skin colors, of course. But on the other hand, it also shows the importance of a country. Okay, even a black soldier who is not treated well in France and who is in a sense regarded as an offspring from the people in Africa also thinks the country of France is very great. And that's why they also think they prepared for any sacrifice for the country. Okay, and that shows why patriotic idea is important, why patriotism is good. Okay, and that is a message shown or sent out from this cover photo. Do you agree with the analysis? This is the analysis of Roland Barthes. He also used a lot of different examples, but I want to give the example first and talk about the concept of a myth. Okay, the concept of a myth. If you understand the example here, especially with the salute to the flag of France, okay. For Roland Barthes, he thinks that that kind of image is creating or consolidating a myth. Okay? Originally, the idea of the concept of myth has different meaning. Okay, in the past, it means something like the stories about God. Okay, some supernatural stories, for example, about how the world is created. Okay, that's what we call myth. And nowadays we use the English word myth to talk about something that is believed by a lot of people, but actually it is false. Okay, it is a myth that I don't know, like what I don't know, something that is believed by a lot of people, but actually it is false. And then we'll say it is a myth, right, in English now. But Roland Barthes used that idea, that word, to represent something else, but related to what we're talking about. He thinks myth is a story that makes a cultural thing natural. Okay, that's also the idea we talked about on last tutorial. Okay, actually Roland Barthes thinks a lot of things in our world is cultural. It's just cultural. Okay, it's a cultural thing. Okay, it's something created by human, and it is not a must to view the world, to see the world from that perspective, or using that kind of concept. Okay, but the function of a myth is to make that cultural thing natural. And so you think, okay, maybe it seems it is in the order of nature, although it is created by us. But then you in your conscious, in your mind, you think that, or you have the impression that it is kind of natural to see things from that perspective. Okay, it is the case. Okay, it makes you have the feeling that it is the case, although it is not. Okay, and then it is unchangeable and universal and absolute, because it is the case. It is natural, right? For example, using that kind, the cover photo of that cover photo of a black soldier is itself creating and consolidating a myth. What kind of myth it is? The myth is that France is a great country. Okay, of course. For example, the existence of France itself is a cultural thing, right? We can divide the world in a lot of different ways, right? And saying that, okay, that area is a country called France, and all those people within that country is French. It is something artificial and cultural, right? You see that you have other way. Of course, we have other way to divide the world. Okay, to divide the people. We have other way to talk about the people. We don't. It is not a must to have a country that we call France, and then we group all those people within that boundary and call them French. Okay, it is of course possible that, for example, there are lots of different countries, but not one single country, France, or maybe the country can dissolve and recombine with other other places to become another country. Okay, a lot of different possibilities. And naturally, the existence of France itself is a cultural product, right? And we separate that kind of people and call them French. It's also a cultural product. Culture is always a spectrum. Okay, you can see from the western side, western point of Europe to the eastern point of Europe. In the past, without any country boundary, we can see that the culture is changing gradually. Okay, so every village have share like 99% of culture with the next one, but they got 1% difference, right? And then that difference will accumulate along the line, and then the eastern part and the western part of Europe will be very different in terms of culture, right? Of course, but suddenly we can let's try to separate the different culture and say that okay, starting from here is the French culture, okay, across the border is the German, right? It's sort of strange, right? It is sort of artificial, of course. And then further on, after the creation of France, the country France, it's also the idea that France is a great country that deserves your sacrifice. Okay, that kind of idea is totally cultural, right? It's a cultural product. Okay, but Roland Barthes thinks that kind of image, okay, a black soldier saluting to the flag of France, try to make the existence of France and also the greatness of the French nation a natural fact. Okay, that they just try to use that message, that image, to make that cultural stuff a natural thing. When you think this kind of idea is natural, then it thinks that it is in the order of the nature. And if it is in the order of the nature, just like other physical law or natural law, it is unchangeable and universal. Or maybe if it is changeable, it doesn't need to be changed because it's just natural, right? Okay. Maybe it's unchangeable, or maybe it's changeable, but then it doesn't need any change, right? Because it's just natural. It's a natural way of our lives. It's the natural way of seeing things. So you can see a lot of propaganda just uses the idea of naturalness, okay, being natural, to promote certain ideas, okay. For example, it's always said that a heterosexual relationship, like one male and one female together, and it is the role model of romantic love and romantic sex, okay. That kind of idea, heterosexual relationship, is the normal one, and it's always promoted by the idea that it is the natural one. Okay, it is always said that okay, it is just natural to have a man and a woman in a romantic love or sexual relationship. It seems to be just natural, and that kind of naturalness is being promoted by a lot of different people who want to support, okay, heterosexual normality. They think that it is the way things should be. Okay, but actually, in a sense, it is something cultural. Okay, if it is possible to have different kinds of sexual relationship, different kinds of relationship within love affairs, why we treat one of them as the normal one and the correct one? Okay, that treatment is in a sense a cultural product, but it is always put under the umbrella of being natural. Okay, because it is natural, so you have to do that, or it is a right one. Okay, I can accept that you guys do something else, but the most natural and most normal and most correct version of love and sex is that between a man and a woman. That is all. That is also a myth, right? You see, this is also a myth. A myth is something cultural, but regarded to be natural by people. Okay, it is also a myth, and a myth is also ideological. Okay, it is an ideology. It means that it is not the truth. It's not the only truth, at least. Okay, it is not the only way possible way of life, but then it tried to make you to behave in a certain way. For example, if you really think that heterosexual sex is the only correct version of human sex because it is natural. Then you won't practice in that, you won't do that practice, right? And for yourself, you won't want to have love affairs with the people of the same sex, and you may be like rejecting that kind of sexual behavior of other people if they are not of opposite sex, right? You may want to have a law that is against homosexual relationship, okay? And when you got your offspring, you get your son and daughter or the next generation, you try to teach them that heterosexual sex is the only correct version of sex, right? Ideology will try to make sure to see things from certain perspective and judge that it is the correct way to see the world, okay? And that is what we call ideology. They will hold you, they will grab you, okay, to see things only from certain perspective and behave according to that kind of perspective is the correct rate of to behave yourself, okay? And so you see, from Roland Barthes' perspective, products of our creative industry, for example, a cover photo of a magazine would always have that kind of effect that when you create, okay, when you want to be creative, actually you are not being creative. You are just being limiting, okay? You try to consolidate the one of the possible worldviews and say it is the only way to see the world. Okay, in a sense, it is very conservative. When you think you're being creative, you are actually being very conservative. Okay, so I always say, as the main theme of our course is to see that there are two ways to understand creativity, right? The first one is emancipating, okay, a liberating kind of creativity. But we always have another kind. It is a very conservative kind of creativity that consolidates the old worldview. And you see that kind of cover photo of a magazine, it's just doing that kind of job, okay? It's just doing that kind of job. Okay. And actually, Roland Barthes used a lot of different examples. Okay, but some of his favorite examples including, for example, photos of a male wrestler. Wrestler is those guys who fight on the stage, right? 摔角手, okay? I don't know how to say in Mandarin. 摔跤，对吗？我不知道。Okay, wrestlers, okay, male wrestler. Oh, it shows his muscle. It shows how powerful he is when he is trying to like attacking his opponents. But I hope you guys know the fact that wrestling, okay, is actually fake. Do you guys know it? Do you guys know it? Okay, wrestling, okay, is actually fake. Okay, it's very popular in 3 countries in the world. The first one is the United States. Okay, the second one is in Japan. The third one is in Mexico. Okay, very popular in these 3 countries. But no matter in which country, wrestling is a drama. Okay, they got some plots. Okay, pre-scripted. Okay, they know I'm going to hit you here and there and blah 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 blah. And according to the analysis of Roland Barthes, it is they always have some character for the wrestlers. Okay, you are the good guy, he is the bad guy, and the bad guy will dress up like a bad guy and use some very dirty trick to attack the opponent. But the good guy will always do something good, okay, to protect his teammate, to do justice, okay, to restore the justice that is destroyed and harmed by the bad guy. Okay, it is like wow, always a plot. Okay, some setting of character. Okay, behind all those wrestlers. But for Roland Barthes, he thinks that kind of shows, okay, the wrestling itself is a show, right? And that kind of show itself is a sign already. It's a sign already. That shows something else. That signifies something more. What is what it signifies is that, for example, it says bravery, okay? Sometimes using violence to restore justice is a good one, okay? Because in our world, okay, we have no ways to do justice to a lot of things, right? You always see an injustice happen, and you feel you don't have the power to change the situation. But then in a Western, in a show of Westerning, it always gives you the power to think that, okay, justice is there and we can have power to change it. Okay, someone who is powerful will help us to do something to restore the justice. Okay, and in particular, it is a male figure. It's a male figure. Okay, the good guy also always have a male characteristic, and that kind of guy will help us as our representative to like fight against the injustice. Okay, and the justice will always win. Okay, this is the message. Of course, a very cultural one. Of course, that is sent out by those photos or by those shows itself in Westerning, and that is like makes you think that is natural. Okay, a male figure will help us to do something, and it's good to use something that is not regulated like violence to like to help us to achieve justice. And so it's a lot of message has been sent out through this kind of show. Okay, it is itself a sign that signify something else. Okay. Another very famous example used by Barthes is roses in Valentine's Day. Okay, roses in Valentine's Day. It is it's very common to like give out roses to your Valentines, right? To those you love in Valentine's Day, and of course it's a very it's a very commercial product, right? It becomes a cultural thing in the US first, as far as I know, and it is something promoted by all those businessmen. Okay, and then it becomes an important business. Nowadays, it's even more. It's an even bigger business in East Asia than in the Western world. It's a very very lovely story. Okay, very strange things, but anyway, the roses in a Valentine's Day. When you give out and when you send roses to your to your lover, okay, it represents something, right? It represents something. Golan Barthes thinks it represents the love, of course. Okay, it represents the love. But you can imagine there is an advertisement, okay, on Valentine's Day. It is roses in the picture with a man, typically a man, holding a bunch of flowers in his hand. And for example, it's a restaurant advertisement, or I don't know, a chocolate advertisement to sell their product. Okay, and that those roses in the hands of the male character in the advertisement signify something else. Right? It of course also still signifies the love to your lover, but then it further signifies something. It further signifies, for example, that we have to celebrate our love, our relationship on Valentine's Day, and it also sends out the message that it is always good to send some gifts to your Valentine, to your lover, right? In that kind of advertisement. You get you also get the sense, right? You also have the feeling that the roses in this sense, in this picture of advertisement, it sends out such kind of message that it signifies your love, but in order to show your love to your lover, you have to send them roses and gifts, and it is always good to do so, and maybe it is a must to do so. So at the end of the day, it helps to the promotion of their products, right? It's a commercial thing at the end of the day, right? but it is very implicit in the advertisement. Sometimes the advertisement in nowadays world is even more subtle, even more implicit. It won't even say what, for example, what kind of company it is. Okay, but the image itself creates such an impact, and that is good enough to make you to take your lover, if you are a male figure in the relationship, to a good restaurant and to send her some gifts for your lovers, for the Valentine's Day. Okay, and that is how the message get into your mind very subtly, without your consciousness. Okay, so I haven't gone into the further detail of this kind of cultural product, but you see the general idea of Roland Barthes. He thinks that actually we receive a lot of different message, different myths, okay, is packed in those message. And when we receive those message, that kind of myths, that means something that tells you that something is natural and just do it, is packed in the messages. So you let those messages into your mind, and all those myths also get into your minds along with those messages. You get the idea, right? And those myths has a lot of ideological function that will shape your behavior and your worldview to see things and do things from certain perspective. And so, in a sense, Roland Barthes is very critical of all those creative industry, because he thinks under that the current capitalistic market economy, all those creative industry must, and they got no choice, okay, must do something to earn money, okay, to earn a profit. And in that sense, they must put all those messages into all those products. Okay, so Roland Barthes is very critical of that kind of, so to speak, propaganda, no matter it's from the commercial or from the political side. Okay, it's very the ideological in this sense. And if you so the first message that we learned from Barthes is that we have to pay extra care and attention to all those like movies, advertisements, and things and products from the creative industry. Okay, it is easy to block those messages that is explicit. Okay, some advertiser who is not so skillful will just tell you, okay, it is good, okay, something is bad, just buy this, not that, okay, buy our product. If they just use that kind of very explicit message to tell you to do something, to behave in certain ways, it is very easy for you to block it. Okay, it is very easy for you to block it, because it's just so obvious that if some very explicit message is put to you, you will think about the message. And when you think about the message, then it is not so hard for you to block it if you don't agree with that message. Okay, if I say to you, oh, certain product is good, let's check it out, and then you compare the product to other products, okay, it's not so good, okay, then it is easy to block that message. But this is not what the message typically convey itself. Okay, the advertisement, the ideology in movies, in a book or in a comics, it's not like that. It's not something very explicit. It's always like under the carpet, under the table. Okay, so your mind won't have that kind of conscious or attention to check whether those messages are okay or not. You just see the movie, you see a movie, watch a movie, and you feel, okay, it's very funny, okay, it's very good, it's very entertaining, and that's it. It's like if you watch a lot of, for example, Marvel movies, okay, those superhero movies from the United States, you just got entertained, right? And you maybe you felt that, oh, it's a very good entertainment. That's great. But at the end of the day, a lot of subtle messages has sneaked into your mind because you don't have some conscious check against all those messages within the movies. Okay. And that's why it is actually is a very important step in the development of the subject of cultural studies. We want to see how powers operate within a certain things that have meaning, okay, like a movie, and how those meaningful thing will get some implicit meaning into your mind and to shape your worldview and shape your behavior. We have to be careful about the how power operates within all those cultural products, and that's the starting point of cultural study. It's something critical. It's a critical discipline, in the sense that it tries to have a critique on those cultural products and see how power operates within it, and that will have a very huge influence on the mass people. Okay, on the people. And that's why you see how Roland Barthes conducts his study is important to the development of the discipline of cultural studies. And so let me finish this before the break. Okay, the last session before the break. So, because semiology is the study of science, right? 研究符號啊, okay? Study of science. Then we have to ask first, in the study of science, what is a sign? Okay, what is a sign? For Roland Barthes, a sign is a combination of a signifier and a signified. Okay, it's using a model of language. Okay, so let's use language as a model to explain things first. Okay, for example, the word apple. I just randomly pick a word. Okay, apple. It's without a meaning. It's just some symbol, right? It's just some script. Okay, right? And we try to pair up this as a signifier to something it means, which is the signified. Okay, so when we try to use that symbol to mean something, then this symbol suddenly becomes a signifier because it signifies something else other than itself, right? Then it suddenly becomes a signifier that signifies something else. Okay, and what is signified? For example, the concept of apple, or maybe someone will say the apples in the world, the actual apples in the world, maybe, then they are the signified because it is meant by the word apple. Okay, so for a sign to be a sign, it must have two aspects. Okay, on one hand, it must have a signifier, and on the other hand, it must have a signified. Okay, just like the word apple. The symbol apple is the signified. It's the signifier. Okay, so it's the signifier. And the concept of apple, or maybe all those apples in the real world, are the signified of the signifier, namely the symbol apple, the word apple. Okay, so a combination of a signifier with a signified is a sign. Okay, a sign has these two perspectives, and for a sign to be a sign, normally the relation between the two, like the sound and word apple with the real apples or the concept of apple, is just an arbitrary relationship. Okay, you can pair up a song with different things and say the song signify those things, right? And those relations is normally arbitrary. Sometimes it's not. For example, in Cantonese, a cat is we will call mao. Okay, mao, and I think it is mimicking the sound of a cat. Okay, meow. Okay, so in Cantonese it's mao, and that relationship is not arbitrary, right? Because the word try or the sound as a signifier try to mimic the sound of those signified, namely the cats. Okay, sometimes like that, sometimes it's like that, but it's not the usual model. Usually the sound or maybe the word is just arbitrarily paired up with something, and to say the first the former signified the latter. Okay, and that pairing is what we call a sign. Okay. Okay, maybe we stop here first. And in the second half of the lecture, I will try to apply that concept of a sign to explain things like the black soldiers advertisement or the advertisement of roses in Valentine's Day. We can use that to explain things. Okay, so let's take a break first, and we come back to further discuss this. Can punctuation be regarded as a sign? Okay, someone asked. Very good question. I don't think so, but let's discuss after the break. Okay, let's think about that. Can punctuation be regarded as a sign? Okay, let's talk about that after the break. Okay. Hello. Okay, is it? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes, thank you. Problem. Okay, let's get started again. Before the break, a student messaged me a question. Can punctuation be regarded as a sign? Okay. Of course, for me is I don't know what you guys think. I think punctuation is of course a sign, but what it signifies is something different, something functional. Okay, it's just like how should we read the other sign? Okay, for example, if I say good exclamation mark or good question mark, then these two different choices of punctuation will influence us how to read the sign good, right? We say good question mark and good exclamation mark. Of course, it means different things. It means maybe I'm asking a question or am I making an exclamation? So the punctuation, namely the question mark here and the exclamation mark here, will influence how we read other sign. Okay, it's just like full stop and comma. It's the same. It tells us the relationship between these other signs. Okay, if there's a full stop, then we start a new idea. If just a comma, then it means the signs before and after the comma have certain closer relationship with each other. That's why we use a comma instead of a period or a full stop. And so I think punctuation is of course is a kind of sign that signifies something. But what it signifies is something functional. It means how, for example, it signifies how we should read other signs. But it's not like, for example, the idea of apple or that kind of stuff. That signifies a clear concept. Okay, it signifies a concept. That concept, like the concept of apple. Okay, so maybe it's a sign, but just a sign of on different level. Okay, and the primary focus of our discussion here is concerned with the sign of at the first level. I mean, normally the sign that we are using, that signifies something, a concept, or it's not signify something simply functional. It's okay for you, okay? So let us continue our discussion. Okay, on the signs. So if you understand, okay, a sign is a combination of a signifier and a signified, then we can see that why it is a model of a language. Okay, it's just like the language, right? Signifier and signified. When they combine, it is a sign. Okay, and the relationship is usually arbitrary. Okay, it's usually arbitrary. It's not a must, but usually it's just arbitrary. And so we have to understand the relationship between a signifier and a signified with reference to a language, with reference to a language system, because that system try to pair them up. But here is the idea for Roland Barthes. Language, the comparison between language and some social phenomenon stop here. Okay, because in our social, we can for Roland Barthes and for other structuralists at the end of the day, they think that we can use that kind of model of language to study social phenomenon. So the phenomenon in a social world, like for example, why we have the show of wrestling, okay? Why we have such kind of magazine that shows black soldiers saluting to a French flag on the cover page. That kind of social phenomenon can be studied using the model of language. Okay, that's why semiology is not just a study of language, because they want to expand the idea of a sign. Okay, because they think, for example, the cover page of a magazine or the show of a Westerner is also a sign itself. Okay, and so it's included in the study of sign, namely semiology. And how it works, okay? Because they think in social phenomena, when certain social phenomenon itself is used as a sign, the structure is much more complicated than a simple language system. A language system is complicated enough, of course. Otherwise, we won't have the subject of linguistics. Okay, it's already complicated enough. But we think that when we apply that to social phenomena, some further complication is here. Because in social phenomena, a sign which is already a combination of a signifier and signified can be a further signifier to signify something else. Okay? So a sign which is a combination of a signifier and signified, that combination itself can be used as a further signifier. Okay, so it then becomes the whole sign, then become part of a further sign, a larger sign, and the original sign acts only as a signifier. That signifier is signifying something else, and then it becomes a new sign. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So here there are different levels of signification. Okay, we got first order sign and second order sign. And that is what we call the semiological chain. We can have even third, fourth order sign. Okay, first order, okay, at the first level, then second level, then third level. Okay, it's the abstract discussion. And then we can put them into practice to illustrate the idea with the example of a French black soldier. Okay, so you see the cover page. Okay, the cover page is a photo of a French black soldier, right? So that image itself is a signifier, right? That image of a French black soldier is a photo. A photo is always a signifier. That signifies the real person, right? At the first level, first order. Okay, at the first order, it is the signifier is just the French the photo of the French black soldier, and that signifier signifies the real French black soldier shown in the photo, right? So it is already a pairing of a signifier, and a signified. Okay, the photo signifies the real person. Okay, so it is a sign. They combine together to form a sign, right? It's easy, right? At the first level. But then this sign, okay, so this sign is this sign already consists of two things, okay, the photo and the real person, and they combine to form the sign. Okay, but then this sign as a whole can signify something else, right? As we have discussed at the first level, maybe it signifies the unity of the French nation, right? Among people of different skin color, right? So the sign at the first level, which as a whole will signify the unity among different people, right? So it's a sign of second order. Okay, the signifier is the sign of the first level, namely the combination of the photo and the real person. Okay, and then it is the sign at the first level, and this sign as a whole will signify the unity of people of different color in French nation. Okay, this new pairing will become a new sign. Okay, it is what we call the second order sign. Okay, but then if you understand that, so there could be different levels of signification. If you understand there could be different levels, then why stop at the second level? You can still have further, right? So the sign at the second order, okay, the original signifier, the original sign signifying the unity among people of different color in France, that become a new sign, and that sign also signified that the idea France is a great nation, or France is a great country that deserves your sacrifice. Okay, this new idea is the new signified at the third level, which is signified by the sign at the second level. You know what I'm talking about? So we can create signs at different level. Okay, and that is what we call a semiological chain. Okay, you understand? Sign at the first level can be signifier at the second level, and then we create a new sign, and that new sign can be signified at the third level. That signifies something else at level 3. Okay, it's a semiological chain. We can also use that as an example to explain how message get across at the example of the roses in Valentine's Day, right? Okay, the advertisement that shows some roses, okay, and that roses represent signified some real roses, right? So it's sign at the first level, but then that sign also signifies the love to the lovers, okay, at the second. So it becomes a sign at the second level, and because that means the love to your lovers, then it means it is only natural and good. It further means, okay, it is natural and good to send some gifts, some presents to your lovers on Valentine's Day. It is the meaning at the third level. Okay, we have a semiological chain along that direction, right? And that's the idea. You see, that's the idea. Okay, maybe I can use a graph to show that. Let me share the screen here. Okay. Here. Okay, it's the book, the reading, okay, chapter 3. Okay, Graham Adams spoke on Holland Barthes. Okay, so you see at the first level, we use some signifier to signify something as the signified, and their combination will give us on the second level a sign, okay, a sign. But this sign as a combination of the first and the second one at the first order will act as a signifier here, okay, and that signifier will signify another signified, and these two, when combined, will give us a new sign at the second level. Okay, so it's a sign at the first level, which is a combination of these two, and then we have a new sign here, which is a combination of these two, and the relationship between different levels is achieved by using sign of a lower level as a signifier to signify something else, and that's the semiological chain. You see the idea, right? Do you see the idea? You see the idea, okay? So let's get back to my notes. So if it is the case, then we can use that to understand a lot of social phenomena. Okay, a lot of social phenomena. So I have to say something first. Because it blew up on a semiological chain, so some message are sent out very implicitly. Because at the most explicit level, that's level 1, you just see some roses that represent some real roses, okay? Or you just see a photo of black soldier that represents a real black soldier. And that kind of meaning is the most explicit one, okay? Everyone agree and everyone see this. But along that semiological chain, we try to put some message implicitly into the sign, okay? So the cover photo of the black soldier then signifies a lot more behind the first level, okay? It not only signifies the real black soldier, but it also signifies a lot of different concepts and ideas behind that. But because they are way behind the photo, okay, like 4, 3, or 5 levels behind the photo of the black soldier, so it is like not so easy to be discovered. Although you get it, of course you get it. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? It works because you still get it, right? But without any conscious analysis, you let them into your mind without conscious consideration of whether it's correct or not, because it's like hidden in the 3rd or 4th level. Okay, that's how the tricks work. Okay, that's how the tricks work. And so here is a modern example given by Graham Allen in the reading. Back then, when in the UK, when the Queen's mother passed away a few years ago, a newspaper picture of crowds waiting to see the coffin of the Queen mother is a first order sign, okay? There's a photo on newspaper showing that there is a long queue with the people who want to see the coffin of Queen mother, okay? And here, the first order signifier is the photographic image, of course, of the crowds. And the signified is the crowds that waited to see the Queen, okay? It's the real people. It's the real crowds in the real world, okay? That's okay. Then that becomes a sign, okay? So that sign is, in a sense, altogether, is the press reportage of a topical event, which we may note as large crowds have queued for hours to see the Queen Mother laying in the state. Okay, it's the sign. It's the sign. But the point is, the myth raises to the second level, okay? Turning that sign altogether into a new signifier. And that signifier signifies something new. That is the United British Public or nation, or the British people's love of the monarchy. And that helped consolidate the power of the monarchy, right? Or maybe to consolidate the UK as a whole, as a country. Okay, maybe that can act against the independence movement of Scotland or North Ireland, right? You see the idea. So that helps you to think that, okay, British is a united nation, or British people, it's only natural that for the British people to love the Queen and the monarchy. Okay, that's the myth, okay? That is put to you by that picture. But because it's so explicit, it's on the second level or the third level, then you won't have a conscious guide against that kind of implicit messages, okay? But maybe that helped to consolidate, to unify the country. But that may not be a good one because, for example, the Scottish people may want independence, maybe, and this part of them have that idea, that desire. And that kind of message will try to stop and make you think that, okay, stop Scotland independence movement is not good. And that is ideological, right? When you vote, you won't vote for those politicians who support Scotland's independence. Or when you vote, when you say something, you will condemn all those people who struck for the independence of Scotland, for example. So the idea is that it is ideological in nature, but you don't read that as a myth, okay? So it's a very good quote here, also from Graham Allen. Myth, as it were, hijacks meaning, hijacks, okay? 騎劫 in Cantonese, 騎劫, okay? 騎劫, okay? Hijacks meaning and turn it into a second order meaning, or what Barthes call a signification. Okay. Signification here refers to the second order sign. It is meaning which has been produced through the transformation of already existing meaning, already existing first order sign. Okay, that hijack of meaning, try to hijack the most obvious sign in order to mean something more. But that something more become more explicit because it's at the second or third level. Okay, so as a myth, so that is a study of the myth, right? Here the myth is not only a sanhua, the story about gods. Okay, it's something like that we have discussed. That make a cultural thing natural. Okay, so the role of the mythologist, okay, those who study myth, is to expose or often simply to remind us of the artificial and constructed nature of such images. Okay, it helps us to expose the fact that it is something constructed and artificial. Don't think it is natural. It is something created through that kind of signification. Okay, so use another word. The aim of the study of myths is to demystify myth, right? To demystify myth and make us see the real thing, make us see how things happen here. Okay, it's just something artificial and cultural. Don't let the message fool you and make you think that it is something in the order of the nature. And so it's a must, it's absolute, and it's unchangeable. No, it's not the case. Okay, that's the general idea. Okay, that's the general idea. Is it okay here? As the first part, okay? And that's what Graham Allen talks about in chapter 3 of the reading. Okay, is the main part of chapter 3. Okay, understand? Is it okay? And then, so you see, using that kind of conceptual tools, we can analyze a lot of different cultural products. Okay, movie, songs, literature, as I said, or a lot of different things. Okay, or even some fairy tales. Okay, some stories that's passed from generation to generation. Okay, a lot of different ideology is put into the text that we might not recognize and discover. But using that kind of conceptual tools as developed by Roland Barthes, it helps us to analyze the text, to unveil something that is concealed in the text. Okay, maybe some implicit messages is there, but we don't have a conscious attention to that, and sometimes that will has a very mystical or ideological influence on our worldview, and we don't recognize it. And so using that kind of stuff, we can try to make people see that actually a lot of things is not free of ideology. Okay, a lot of things is actually ideology laden. Okay, ideology is inside, but we don't recognize it. That's the idea. That's the idea. The idea here is one more thing. When you say, okay, this kind of message or this kind of images will have that kind of message inside, the author of the cultural product, like the photographer of the photo, can always say, no, I don't mean that. I don't mean that. It's just your interpretation. Is not my intention. Okay, I just want to take a photograph of a black soldier saluting to a French flag. I mean, I don't mean something else. I just refer to that black soldier. First, I have to say, for most of the time, the author is telling the truth. Okay, he's not lying. At least, it's his intention or her intention. Okay, he or she really intends just to do that. But the problem is, even he is not lying, it doesn't mean that the images doesn't have that kind of meaning. Okay, because it's maybe Roland Barthes will say, maybe the author doesn't really understand the meaning of his product. Okay, the meaning of his work is sort of not totally transparent, even to the creator of that work. Okay, and actually, for Roland Barthes, the author is not that important. So he has a very famous quote, namely the death of the author. Okay, I also uploaded that article as a supplementary reading onto Moodle, so you can read it if you want. Okay, it's about why the author is not important here. Okay, the structure give the words or the signs, the images some meaning that might not be intended by the author, but the message and the meaning is there. Okay, and I can still get it, and that has already had a very huge influence on my worldview, on how we practice, how we see the world, on how we behave ourselves. The meaning is already there. So in order to unpack it, it's not to argue against the author. Okay, it's just the author here is not that important at all, and we just try to analyze the text itself, and that's what we need to do. Okay, that's the idea. That's the idea. Right? But the author may be turned it true from his heart. He said, it is like that. I don't mean to do that. But the idea is like, I know you a lot. You don't mean to do that, but the meaning is there in your work, even though you don't mean to put that meaning into the work. Okay. Just like this newspaper reporter. I think when he puts or she puts that picture onto the newspaper, he or she doesn't mean to show the unity of the nation or the patriotism with inside, but that's enough. But that's enough. The message has already have that kind of impact. And that's already important enough for us to demystify that kind of myths, okay? Actually, we will say that kind of idea or line of thought is hugely influenced by a very famous French linguist. Okay, Saussure. Okay, Saussure. Okay, Saussure. Saussure in his book on general linguistics introduced a lot of different ideas that is also employed by Barthes and other structuralists to analyze social phenomena. Of course, Saussure didn't try to use that to analyze social phenomena. His aim is to analyze language, okay, real language, okay, our English, Chinese, okay, language. But then the structuralists use that idea to apply to other social phenomena, okay? And so Saussure is always called the father of structuralism, but it's quite interesting that Saussure never intended to put his analysis onto the study on social phenomena. He just wants to study language. Okay, so interesting fact. Actually, during that period of scholastic discussion, in particular on literature critique, okay, 文學評論啊，文學評論 okay, literature critique. There are two different schools of thoughts within the idea of literature critique, okay? It is later on called the old and new criticism, two schools of literature critique. The first one is the old criticism, okay? It's called by Barthes because he thinks it's something in the old day, okay? They won't call themselves old criticism because they don't recognize the new criticism as the kind of criticism. Anyway, the old criticism is, you can imagine, is the typical literature critique that we can imagine, okay? For example, there is a new books, okay? New novels, new books. And then a lot of critique writers will try to analyze the new novel, the new text, and to evaluate whether it's a good novel or a bad novel, why is it good, why it is bad, and give their analysis, okay? To criticize, to have a critique on the novel, okay? And from Barthes' point of view, they use traditional merits to judge a text, okay? They use traditional merits to judge a text. For example, whether it's clear, so clarity is important. Whether it fulfills, it fits our common sense, okay? Or it's against common sense. Good taste, okay, a very important word. The taste is good, okay? You have a feeling, okay, that's a work with good taste or not. Okay, objectivity, okay? That kind of criteria is employed by the scholars in the tradition of old criticism to critique a work, okay, to analyze a new work, okay, a new work. And of course, from that perspective, the intention of the author is important, right? We want to know what the author really want to convey here within the novel, within the text, okay? And that kind of study, that kind of literature critique, okay? Of course, it's not only literature critique, actually. It relates to other art, it's also related to other art critique. okay, critique of other fine art, movie, etc., etc. But at least the debate here is concerned with literature review, literature critique, okay? And all criticism will pretend to be free from any ideology. They thinks they're free from any ideology. So there's no myth here. I just use some objective criteria to judge, to evaluate, and to analyze a text. Okay, I'm free from any ideology. I didn't want to like use any particular political thoughts to analyze the text. So that's why my text is apolitical. It's unrelated to politics. It's unrelated to I'm not using any particular worldview. I just use some objective criteria to make my evaluation and judgment. But Barthes thinks it presupposes actually a lot of, for example, bourgeoisie ideas. Okay, the ideas that is in support of capitalism, in support of the social structure at that time, and without knowing it itself. Okay, for example, Barthes always says that when the guys from old criticism try to criticize other scholars, they will always say they say things that's not clear. Okay, but actually it's not the things that are not clear, but they try to pretend to be not to be understanding those critiques by other scholars. Okay, and then they charge them as unclear. Okay, or against common sense, for example. And that kind of criteria is actually very bourgeoisie ideas. Okay. So what if it is that kind of criticism, literature critiques that is criticized by Roland Barthes, then what Roland Barthes wants? He is advocating a kind of new criticism. Okay, new criticism. First, it explicitly uses theoretical tools and standpoints from, for example, Marxism, feminism, 女性主義, post-colonialism, 解殖主義, psychoanalysis, like Sigmund Freud, 弗洛伊德嘅心理分析. That kind of theoretical tools and standpoints are clearly not ideology free. Okay, it is a kind of ideology in a sense, okay, or at least it has a certain stand. But the idea is we use that kind of theoretical and conceptual tools and adopting their standpoints to try to critique certain texts as, for example, conservative. Okay, if you want to, for example, from a Marxist perspective, for example, it is important to help all those laborers and workers to understand they are being exploited. Okay, okay, being oppressed by the class of bourgeoisie, those who own the factories, for example, those rich guy. Okay, in layman term, those rich people. Okay, is oppressing and exploiting those laborers and workers. Okay, and from Marxist perspective, we have to use a lot of different conceptual tools to analyze the text or the literature in order to tell us that some literature is poison, is toxic in nature, is poisoning and toxic in nature. It just tried to consolidate the power of the rich or the power structure that is of capitalism. Okay, that is against the interests of labor and workers. Okay, so it's of course have certain clear standpoints, even maybe some political standpoints. Okay, but new criticism thinks that we can use that kind of tools to do our analysis. Okay, because first, it is impossible to be totally free from any ideology. The idea is which ideology is the right one and the good one. Okay, this is the problem. we have to use the right and or good or better ideology or standpoint to do our criticism. Okay, it's not good to pretend to be ideology free. And then we try to look at the system it presupposed. Okay, instead of focusing on a particular individual work. Okay, that's a new idea. The system. I haven't talked about it now as of now. So if it is the case, then the intention of the author is not important at all. Of the author is not important. What is important is the system behind all those works. Okay, it is a system that makes the work possible, and that system is the thing that we need to study, not the author. The author is not important in any case. Okay, from the perspective of new criticism. Okay, so let's stop here today. Okay, I have said so much, so rich already. Next, in the coming Wednesday, I will have a conclusion on what a system is or what a structure is, why structuralism is called structuralism, okay, and how it helps us to analyze the work. This topic is very important because I want you guys at the end of our semester to do a text analysis, okay, to analyze a text, maybe a movie, a comics, I don't know, a song, that kind of stuff, or a novels, for example, okay, and using the conceptual tools I have taught you in the course, like Heidegger, Foucault, but the tools used by Roland Barthes is maybe one of the most important and useful tools for you to do that text analysis. Okay, I'll talk about that more after I finish this and the next topics. Okay, I will talk about that more. Okay, because a lot of good things here. But anyway, let me stop here first, and I will talk about this, what it means by system in the coming lecture. Okay. Any question for today? Any question? Okay. If no, then okay, let's meet again on the coming Wednesday. Okay. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye. Adios.